Welcome to Light It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Regina Mashira. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Light It Up. I want to take this time to thank you for tuning in to the podcast. If you're a returning visitor, thank you for continuing to rock with me. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you'll receive a notification each time a new episode is available. And also, remember to share with a friend. I am excited about this episode just as I am about each and every episode of Light It Up. If you tuned in last week, then you heard the episode with two mom educators, Zykia Sutton and Kimberly Ellis. Well, this week, I thought it would be a cool idea to continue the conversation about education, particularly because it's Teacher Appreciation Week, and today is Teacher Appreciation Day. And what better way to honor those of whom all other professions depend than to talk to teachers? My guests today are Jamila Taylor, an 8th and 9th grade English teacher at a charter school in Las Vegas, Nevada, Leslie Jackson Tobin, an 8th grade math teacher in South Suburban Chicago, and Savina Joyner, a 4th grade teacher in Southwest Suburban Chicago. Jamila, Leslie, and Savina have a total of 42 years of teaching experience combined. In this episode, they will share why they entered the profession, their experience transitioning to e-learning during the pandemic, and their outlook on the field of education post-COVID-19. Please join me as I welcome Jamila, Leslie, and Savina to Light It Up. Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Light It Up. Today, I have three very special guests who have decided to join me to talk about education. My first guest is Jamila Taylor, and my second guest is Leslie Jackson Tobin, and my third guest is Savina Joyner. Welcome, ladies, to the show.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
So, Jamila, let me start with you. If you could just share your background with the audience and let us know how you got into the field of education and how long you've been teaching.
Okay, so teaching was not my plan. Initially, I was in school majoring in English and a minor in sociology. And through my sociology course, I ended up in child welfare. While working in child welfare, I had a lot of interaction with the schools, and that is what drove me to get into education. I didn't feel like our children were being taken care of as they should have been, and I wanted to be that change. So that's how I got into the field of education. I have been teaching now for 9 years. I've been teaching now for 9 years, and through my 9 years, I have covered a range of grade levels as well as courses. English is what I teach. I have taught Composition 1 and 2. I've also taught World Lit, African American Lit, Brit Lit, and I am now teaching 8th and 9th composition. That's what I currently teach. It has been quite the journey. Definitely, my start was a little rough. My first year had me questioning whether or not I wanted to return to education, but I stuck it out, and now I'm here.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. All right. Leslie.
Hello. Well, my background, I started out first off with elementary education. First class that I ever taught was fourth grade. Decided that I preferred something else, and I went to sixth grade. And so that's where I became a math teacher. Math was my focus, you know, at the undergraduate level. And I was a math teacher, found out that I absolutely loved math. Didn't realize that at first, but you know, it was really good to be able to focus on one subject instead of teaching all of the subjects. So from there, I have also taught high school. Um, and right now I am currently teaching seventh and eighth grade math. And that's all I teach is math, no other subjects. But I have, you know, like I said before, taught other things. One specific year I taught English, you know, and that was fun, sort of. Except that was a lot of grading essays. So I was like, yeah, I need to get back to math.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at, and that's where I hope to stay. I have been teaching for about 22 years.
Wow.
So yeah,
I guess it has been 20 plus years since.
it has.
All right.
Coming up on 23, really. Just, yeah, I had to do the math. I was like, man, when did I graduate? Okay.
All right. Wow. You almost close to retirement age, aren't you? The joke.
Okay now. Look, that would be nice, actually. You know, this remote learning is kind of giving me a, you know,
Yeah.
letting us be at home is it has its pros and cons, but I won't talk anymore about that. Go ahead.
All right, Savina.
Hello. I've been teaching for close to 20 years as well. I started out teaching third grade. I actually taught third grade in CPS for a half a year. I took over a leave for a semester. And then I moved back. I'm from the west suburbs, moved back to the suburbs, taught in Naperville for about 10 years. I taught third grade for 2 years and then fifth grade for the rest of my time in Naperville, which I liked the older grades. Moved to Woodridge School District and taught fifth grade. And I've been recently moved to fourth grade. This is my second year as a fourth grade teacher. And I'm thinking I need to change. So I have a background in English. That's my undergrad degree. So I'm looking forward to delving into high school English teaching. I like teaching the young ones, but I think the older I get, my patience is just not where it's at. And also just the content, you know, I'm kind of over dabbling in all the different content areas. You know, my passion is with English, and that's what I want to teach. And I look forward to that. Just being excited about teaching again, because when you're not in the proper place, it weighs heavy on you, and it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm. So I know that I just kind of dove right into you guys giving your background, and I'm sure my listeners are probably wondering, why are you doing another segment on education? Well, in case people didn't know, education is important to me, and I want it to be important to everybody else too. So the reason why I asked you all to join me today is because, you know, all across the country, because we've been sheltering in place, parents have been home, potentially at home if they're, you know, unable to work or if they're working remotely, but the schools are closed across many states throughout the country. And just recently in Illinois, our governor extended, well, he didn't extend, he hasn't extended the stay in shelter in place yet, although we do anticipate that that will occur. But he did make the official announcement that schools will not reopen for the remainder of the academic year, and that our students will continue with the e-learning. And you know, I know that you guys are on social media. I know you all have friends who have children that, and your friends aren't in education. So I'm sure you guys hear some of the complaints or the frustration of many parents about this transition to e-learning. And I've often wondered, I mean, I've seen some responses from educators who, continue to be disappointed that that the teaching profession is not as respected as it should be, and that it comes across like there are some unrealistic expectations that people have of teachers. And so I wanted to open up this platform to give you all an opportunity as educators to kind of share some of your challenges, but also share your success, some of your success stories working in education. But also, I want to leave the listeners and viewers for this particular episode with some tips, because as it stands here in Illinois, and I know, Jamila, you're in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I don't know, has your governor decided yet whether or not the schools will remain closed for the remainder of the academic year? Because you guys are done in May, right?
Yes, we're done in May, but Monday he did announce that we were going to finish the school year out with the e-learning.
Okay, so to date, really, it's been about 5 to 6 weeks where all of us have transitioned to e-learning. Mm-hmm. So what I'd like to know is, first of all, how have those 5 or 6 I'm saying years, 5 or 6 weeks been? I mean, this was not something, of course, that was planned. And there had to be quick action to try to roll something out. So if you guys, whoever wants to start or share, all of you, okay, Leslie wants to kind of share with us how that transition has been. So go right ahead.
Well, for my school district, and I'm in the south suburbs of Chicago, specifically for my content area for math, we were already doing some things that were online. So we were already set up with Google Classroom so that you could communicate back and forth with the students. Every student has a Google account through our school district. Also, the math series that we're using is through Pearson, and it has an online component where there are lessons and there are there's homework assignments, there are review assignments, there are so many different things that they can click on, and it's kind of interactive. Videos to look at, things to listen to, it reads certain things to you, shows you different, images. So I was already assigning them homework on a weekly basis through that program. So they were already familiar with it. Okay. So honestly, my students didn't really have any excuse not to do it, except for the ones that did not have computer access. My district did a survey during our parent-teacher conferences and at the beginning of the school year, in which they, asked the parents, did they have computer access? And so what my district found out was that many of the households did have, computer access or internet access or what have you. And it was enough of them where it was like, okay, because at first they were preparing for, well, what if there were snow days? Mm-hmm. So we were preparing for in case of inclement weather. And so we already had some plans in place for that. And then parents said that they would be able to access it. Now, one of the things that I found though is that some of the students that were regularly doing their work during the school year are now not doing any work. And it may have something to do with the fact that our governor did say on national television that the grades could not harm, that, well, if they got grades, it would not bring their grades down. It could only improve their grade. So I'm wondering, how many of these students or their parents are also watching and are like, well, it doesn't matter if you do it or not, you're not going to fail. You get what I'm saying? So, but we were already kind of prepared. On our school website, we also had like a school wires page for our classroom. And so they could go there for information as well, even if they weren't in the Google Classroom. But the transition for me, um, it was smooth in terms of getting the work to them. But for the ones that don't have the online access, it's not good for them, because then they're waiting on packets to mail to their homes, or they have like one person at the school every day for parents to come and pick up packets. And then they're still supposed to somehow either bring the packets back to the school and then they send them to us, or they have to, they could just take a picture of their assignment and send it through email, possibly. I also use the Remind app on my phone, which I had already been communicating with parents all throughout the school year. So many of them really like that. And they can take a picture and send me pictures through Remind app as well. Hopefully I answered your question, or maybe I over answered.
No, no, you answered. I'm just, I have other questions, but I'll
Okay.
ask those later because I jotted down some things.
Okay, good.
We did the package too, and I think right now there's confusion with what our district wants us to do as far as teachers. At first the packets were available for people who did not have access to technology. Well, we distributed a bunch of Chromebooks so that everyone has access, and we all know that the local cable companies are providing free internet service for this time. But we just had a meeting with admin and they're like, well, kids should still be doing the packets and we've got to provide constructive feedback. Well, I don't know what's in those packets. Other people put them together. We don't see them. And the kids, where will they turn them into? So it's like, after weeks of having a system set up to where there are online activities available, I can look at those, send out feedback, let them know, what they need to do still. Now you're telling me, oh, push the packets more. No, I'm finally at a place where everyone has computer and they're on there and they're engaged. Why would we want to switch that? But I think we were prepared. It's just a matter of what is the general message of the district. What do we want our kids to be doing? We already know as teachers that we can't grade them. We can't give an F. We can't fail anyone. But if we want them to stay actively engaged with their learning, which one is it? So it's kind of like you've got to just tune out what they're saying and do what is working for your kids. And I've found the most success when I communicate with the parents exactly what needs to be done. So at first, all the kids were in Google Classroom. I was sending out daily assignments. Some kids would finish, some would not. Some would never start because you can see, who's logged on. But once I began to give the parents the same information and follow up with them, it's like, okay, now they're understanding. So everyone's getting the same message, the kids, the parents, everyone. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And that way, the parents are more involved, because at first I think the parents just kind of, thought their kids would be responsible and on top of things, but not so much. So it's like that double accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And once I've communicated with the parents and also sent a checklist by midweek on who's done what. So by Wednesday night, a few parents were having some conversations like, okay, why is this not done? Why is that not done? But just helping with the accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I think when there's a clear message, you'll get more engagement and more participation. If it's kind of, not clear, ambiguous, or if the kids know or feel like you're not checking behind them, they're going to try it. So, but there's still one or two that they haven't done anything. And it's like, and but those are the same people, you don't hear from their parents either. So there's a complete disengagement, which is typical even if we're not in an e-learning type of format.
I have a quick question for all of you. Are your schools requiring that you take attendance? for your students?
So for us, to answer your question, Leslie, yes, we are taking attendance, but we're not doing it in our infinite campus system.
Gotcha.
It's something that we've created as a network, our school, to keep up with the attendance. So what we do is every week, starting on Monday morning, we have a check-in that we post in our Google Classrooms, and the students are required to check in and answer the question. It could be, you know, a one question quiz or whatever. For me, I always do a temperature check to see how they're doing, how the last week went for them. But from there, that's how we record our attendance. As far as being prepared for the whole e-learning situation, probably 2 to 3 weeks prior to the schools closing here in Vegas, we had already started having those conversations on how to prepare in case the schools closed. So we had already started within our departments coming up with our plan of what we were going to do in the event that the schools closed. Our kids are also used to using Google Classroom because we use that with them all year. That's how they submit papers and different assignments for my class. So all the kids are familiar with it. But what we did was one of our admin created a step-by-step video for how to navigate through Google Classroom. And we posted that for all of our students. So if there were some who were not familiar with the system, they could watch the video and it would walk them through exactly how to turn in assignments, how to, look at different things. So we also gave them a time management video. They have planners, what they call them learning plans, and all of our elementary and middle school students have to use them every day. High school is optional for them, but because they've been at the school for so long, because we're K through 12, they're used to using it. So even though they don't have to, the high school students use it as well. So that helps them with the organization piece of it. And so far, our kids have pretty much done very well with the e-learning system. Of course, we do have some who are struggling, and for those, they have a mentor who every week will contact them and kind of walk through things with them to help them along, especially for our SPED students. But overall, we've had a really great response from the students and from the parents. And I know that you all mentioned that your leader said that the grades don't hurt them. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not that case here. Everything that we have been doing, it's the same as if we were in the classroom. So, of course, there are some exceptions depending on their circumstances, but overall, they know that they have to do this work. It is being counted. So, of course, you have some flexibility for specific situations that might come up, but overall, they're all in pretty much. And the parents have been very supportive.
And I think, go ahead.
Oh. Okay, so what I was gonna ask also, so Jamila, you mentioned that a couple of weeks before the schools actually closed, that you guys were already in talks about, how you were gonna proceed with, the at home or, stay at home orders or what have you, with the e-learning. My district was very secretive about telling us whether or not we were going to have like a stay-at-home order or we were going to do e-learning or remote learning or whatever. It almost was kind of like we did not know until probably the Friday before, that upcoming week that we were going to have to do this. So it really didn't give them enough time to like get the information out there and how we were going to proceed. Even though we had things already in place, it was kind of like Monday, that following Monday after they told us, it was like, okay, give packets to all the kids that don't have internet access or what have you. And then get a letter together to tell the ones that do have internet access that this is what they need to be doing. So it was just a big difference. You know, they weren't ready.
Well, one thing too, I didn't mention this before, but I am actually at a charter school. All of my 9 years has been in charter. I've not dealt with the district, the public schools. So one of the things I like about charter is that we can do our own thing. You know, we're not restricted to what happens in the district. Now, as far as the district goes here, it's pretty much the same as what you all have said, where they don't have to do work. You know, they basically told the teachers that, you know, if you assign work, they don't have to do it. It's, you know, kind of up to them if they do it or not. So in that aspect, it's the same here. But like I said, I'm in a charter, so it's a little different for us.
Yeah, I think I know for, I was going to also say, I think it probably also depends on the district too, because I'm in Homewood Flossmoor School District, and it was never communicated that our students weren't required to do the work, even though I know what the governor said. But what the teachers were told is that students shouldn't be penalized, meaning the work that they do should help them. Homewood Flossmoor High School has actually structured a plan where students have the option for this quarter, well, because we should have semester grades at the end of the fourth quarter, but you have the option of taking your class as a pass, or you can opt to get your grade, your actual grade. So if you get the letter grade, then of course that helps your GPA. If you opt for passing, then your GPA, whatever it was, third quarter remains the same. If you don't complete your assignments, then it will be in the system as incomplete, and you have to continue to work on your assignments for that class during the duration of the summer. So that's the plan that they have in place for our students. So I've got some more questions that I want to ask, but I need to take a quick break for a transition. So I'm going to come back on the other side so I can ask some additional questions. Hey, everybody. I just want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Lite It Up. Lite It Up is a weekly podcast that airs every Tuesday. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you'll receive notifications each time a new episode is available. Lite It Up is available on all podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Anchor, and iHeartRadio. You can tune in wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also view the podcast on Facebook or YouTube whenever I have a special guest. Make sure you subscribe, give a rating on Apple Podcasts, and like the Lite It Up Facebook page. You can also follow me on social media using the handle @LiteItUpPodcast. Now, let's get back to the show. So I think hopefully what the administrators will learn from this is A, you've got to prepare, right? And B, that their expectation of their teachers in terms of how they interact and engage with students, whether it's online or face-to-face, probably needs to change as well. Can you speak to, maybe Jamila, I'll start with you. Can you speak to what was the level of support that you received from your administration when transitioning from face-to-face to e-learning?
Okay, so the administration has been amazing in terms of support for us. At the start of the stay-at-home order, they sent out a survey to all of the staff and the teachers to find out what items we were having difficulty getting. Because at the start of this, there was no toilet paper. I mean, they cleaned the stores out. It was ridiculous. So they sent a survey out asking, what items we were having difficulties getting. And based on what your response was, my administrator personally brought to me water, tissue, food items that I couldn't get in the stores, bread. It was very hard to find bread, like all of these things. And he brought them to me, to my doorstep.
Oh, wow.
They don't check on us like that.
They have sent out surveys weekly, just asking how we're doing, how we're holding up with everything that's going on, not just in terms of the teaching aspect, but just personally. They have been very, very supportive of us, and that has helped a lot with the transition.
What about your district, Savina? Have you received support, or in terms of maybe just check-in calls? I don't know, or
I definitely didn't get a delivery of toilet paper and bread at my door.
gotta go to Vegas for that. You gotta go to Vegas.
Vegas charter schools. I think my district, they're pretty much in survival mode right now, but it's an all hands on deck. So it's definitely not, oh, teacher, if you don't do this, you're in trouble. It's kind of like, hey, we're all trying to figure this out. Do the best you can. So they're kind of taking that pressure off by saying, you know what, we get it, because we're making up things as we go along. We know that you're doing the best you can. We have done weekly Zoom calls with my principal, and we had to break it up because there was too many people. So intermediate and primary phone calls. And, we start off with just talking about gratitude, like what are we grateful for? What can we appreciate? And that kind of helps in keeping our sense of community, because we're not able to really be around each other and have that rapport. But that once a week, it's good, because it's all good and warm fuzzies. And, it's really about, hey, how are you doing? And then, disperse information. But they're doing the best they can. And it's just being understanding of everyone's challenges and saying, hey, we can support you as best we can. And we understand that, different things are happening and we've never done this before. So that's the kind of support we've gotten in my district.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think support is better than no support at all.
Yes.
Well, I got one phone call from one of the assistant principals, and I'm just calling to check on you and just see how you're doing and how's your family doing, and the other people in your house, did they get laid off, are they working, that sort of thing. So that was nice. Other than that, I haven't gotten the same thing like what Savina said, like, oh, what are we grateful for, and starting meetings like that. No, I've had math meetings, and they have they'll say, how's everybody doing? And that, that's pretty much it. And we're just like, we're good. But definitely didn't get anything delivered to my home.
Well,
Jamila
is hating. I will say, as a parent, what I am so happy. I'm just gonna, because I used to live in Madison, as they call it, and I was there are 2 school districts there. But I am so happy. I've been in the Homewood Flossmoor School District for now 6 years. And the high school principal, since our last day of school, notice I say our, but since our last day of school, which was March 13th, that following Tuesday, which I believe may have been the 17th, we had an online, a video conference call with parents. Now granted, we do sit on her principal's parent advisory council, but we had a call, and the first thing, she starts all of our meetings anyway off with, where we have to talk about like how we're feeling for the day, give one word to describe. So it's kind of like our check-in.
Mhm.
But what I appreciated the most was she wanted to know, like, how were we feeling? What were some of our concerns going into it? Because we had a few days to transition into the e-learning. So they kind of adjusted the schedule where Monday was just no school for students while the teachers prepared. And then they had 2 days of e-learning, and then they were on spring break, you know. And then we did these calls every week. So even during spring break, so she's taking time out of her schedule in the evening to talk to parents, figure out what our concerns were. And then she rolled out the plan to us. And once we had that first full week of e-learning, we were able to come back to say to her, like, midweek, this is too much, because our students are on block schedules. So they have 7 classes, but they were accustomed to going to certain classes on certain days of the week. And the way the e-learning was set up, it was all 7 classes every single day. And my children were up to like 2 o'clock in the morning trying to finish work. So then they made the adjustments. So what I appreciate that she listens, and then there's constant communication from the district. Same thing with the elementary and junior high, because it's all one district. The principal at my daughter's middle school sends us a video message. Every morning we get the morning announcements as if they're still in school. So they actually, since a student normally does the morning announcements, they have a student every morning submit the video. So still to keep that engagement. So I know that I'm fortunate to be in this district, because I don't think that I would get that in any other district in the state of Illinois. Maybe if I was in some affluent northern suburb, but I'm not. But that has also helped, I think, for me, because it is stressful and overwhelming when you've got, people trying to transition, and then you got to think about their social, emotional well-being and the anxiety that I think all of us probably, are experiencing as well, because we just don't know what's going to happen. So I really do thank you all for, sharing your experience so far. And I'm just curious to know, once the semester is over, what are you going to do with yourselves?
I don't know.
Not look at a computer screen for a minute.
Not look at a computer screen. I know. Well, maybe, you can cut down on the screen time.
Definitely.
That's totally.
I just look forward to being around people again, just
right.
seeing people in person, saying, hey, I like to socialize.
Well, hopefully we will be able to make it out of this pretty soon. And if not, then I guess we'll all have to try to continue to adjust and be creative in how we interact with people now. Do you have any, so let's close out on a positive note. Do you all have any hopes and expectations for the 2020-2021 academic year?
Well, for me, I honestly think that it's going to continue as if nothing has happened, only because we're still moving forward with our students.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have our spring break. We actually canceled spring break so that we could continue, because a lot of the feedback from the parents was that they didn't want to lose the momentum. Mm-hmm. So we're actually going to end school a week earlier, since we didn't do spring break, so that they would have that continuum. So I'm looking forward to next school year. I think that we're still pretty much going to be on track. Maybe a little bit of review, but for the most part, I think that our students are going to be prepared to move forward. So I'm excited to get back into the classroom, and I've got a lot of messages from my students saying that they miss being in the classroom. Like, they actually want to be there every day. And I was shocked at some of those students, but they really do want to be in school. So
That's great, because maybe students will have, those who weren't necessarily eager about school will have a newfound appreciation for it too.
Right. I also received messages from students that were like, one of them was just saying, like, to tell you the truth, I kind of miss you. And I was like, huh? I'm like, okay. And I was like, oh, I wasn't that bad after all, huh? Like, yeah, you weren't. I was like, okay. That was all I said because
Right.
But yeah, maybe the students will appreciate us more. Maybe the parents will be more willing and eager to help out when we may have to, when school is actually open and we have to make those phone calls like, okay, your child is doing this or that, or not doing this or that. And they'll just be more supportive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I really hope.
Yeah, I hope the same thing, that there's just more appreciation for what we do. And I think for the kids, hopefully it will calm down and ease some of the entitlement that we've had to deal with too from our students. This is kind of a grounding experience. So hopefully they'll come in with just a whole new mindset on their education, because now they have to do things. It's not us driving it, it's them driving it. So hopefully motivation next fall will be just off the chain, because they are extra refreshed. They've had time at home, and now they're just appreciating the at school learning experience.
Yeah, I know my children have said that they can't wait to go back to school. So
Nice.
That's a good thing. But they actually didn't necessarily have a problem with going to school, although the running joke in my house is that I will make you go to school even if you're sick and you got to be on your deathbed in order to not miss school. So I don't know, but that's not necessarily true. I just believe you need to have a really good reason to miss school.
Right.
Because once you miss a lesson,
You're behind.
You're behind. So, but hopefully this thing will all kind of pan out. But I will just tell you guys that I am preparing for the possibility that we may end right back up where we are. But I'm gonna try to be, better prepared in terms of how we manage to get through this. But hopefully in August we'll be in the classroom. I want to thank you all for your service to our students and to our families. I've always felt that being a teacher is an extremely noble profession. And I don't know, I just have always had this special feeling in my heart for teachers. And I'm not trying to be, over the top, but Leslie, I still keep in contact with my first grade teacher. My first grade teacher invited me to her 75th birthday party. So when I tell you, yeah, I mean, seriously, I do. Anyway, I think it's a respectable profession. And I just value all of the teachers that I've had. I only remember one teacher that I didn't like. So anyway, thank you all for what you do. And I truly hope that parents will begin to appreciate and your students will appreciate and value you even more. And that for the politicians who are responsible for making decisions that impact your salaries and everything else under the sun centered around your profession, I hope they recognize the value and the importance that you bring as well. So let's just be hopeful that since we've all had to endure this season of change together, that we truly will see some change implemented going forward in the future. So I want to thank you, the three of you, for taking time out of your day to just share some of your experiences with me and with the audience. So as I leave all of my listeners with every episode, and this is for you all too, I want you to continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.liteituppodcast.com or www.ajinamuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LiteItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.